The bridge of the Vorthari flagship Dominion hummed with activity as Admiral Kexton studied the holographic display before him. 47 alien warships hung in perfect formation around Kepler Station, their sleek hulls gleaming under the distant star's light. Each vessel represented the peak of their respective civilization's military might. Energy shields shimmered like soap bubbles around their hulls, and plasma cannons glowed with barely contained power. "Admiral," called Navigation Officer Thekfor from his station, "the human vessel has entered our sensor range." Kexton's four eyes focused on the tactical display. A single dot appeared at the edge of their detection grid, moving toward Kepler Station at what could only be described as a crawl. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. "Magnify," he ordered. The main view screen flickered, then displayed the approaching human ship. Silence fell across the bridge as the alien crew took in the sight. The vessel looked like something pulled from a scrapyard museum. Thick gray armor plating covered every surface, giving it the appearance of a flying metal brick. Strange protrusions jutted from its hull at odd angles. Most telling of all, it moved through space with all the grace of a wounded beast. "By the void," whispered Weapons Officer Zekmal. "Is that really their best warship?" Admiral Kexton activated the fleet communication channel. Within moments, the faces of his allied commanders appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. General Vex Mira of the Thrakari Empire was the first to speak, her scaled features twisted in disdain. "Please tell me the humans are sending more ships," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "This cannot be their entire diplomatic escort." Fleet Marshal Zothek of the Crimson Hegemony leaned back in his command chair, laughing. His species' natural red coloring made him look like he was perpetually angry, but now his expression was pure mirth. "Look at that thing. My grandfather's cargo hauler had better armor plating." "And the speed," added Battle Commander Rixnall of the Silver Collective. "My sensors show it moving at barely 1/10 of our cruising velocity. How did these primitives even reach the stars?" Admiral Kexton studied the human vessel more carefully. Long-range scans revealed details that only made it seem more pathetic. The armor was primitive metallic plating, not the advanced composite materials used by civilized species. No energy shields were visible. The weapon ports appeared to house simple projectile launchers rather than proper energy weapons. "Communications," Kexton called to his officer. "Are you receiving any transmissions from the human ship?" "Yes, Admiral. They're broadcasting on primitive radio frequencies, very basic stuff." "Put it through the translators." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in careful, measured tones. The universal translator rendered it in perfect Vorthari. "This is Captain Hansol Kim of the United Earthship Perseverance. We are approaching Kepler Station for scheduled diplomatic talks. Requesting permission to dock." General Vex Mira's laughter echoed through the communication channel. "Listen to that, so polite, so weak." "Perseverance," Fleet Marshal Zothek repeated mockingly. "How fitting. They'll need all the perseverance they can get." Admiral Kexton allowed himself a rare smile. The human captain's transmission had revealed much. The ship was called a United Earth ship, suggesting these beings came from a single world. One planet, one species, sending one ship to meet the combined might of 4 galactic empires. It was either supreme confidence or supreme stupidity. "Tactical analysis," he ordered. His chief analyst, a thin creature with multiple arms and compound eyes, activated the main hologram. The human ship appeared in 3 dimensions, slowly rotating as scanners probed its hull. "Preliminary scans reveal a vessel approximately 800 meters in length," the analyst began. "Hull composition appears to be steel alloys and other primitive metals. No energy shielding detected. Propulsion system uses chemical rockets with some kind of fusion drive. Very inefficient." "Weapons?" asked General Vex Mira. "Basic projectile. Launchers. Some kind of magnetic acceleration system. Primitive missiles. No plasma weapons, no particle beams, no gravity disruptors." "Admiral, this ship would have been outdated 3,000 years ago by our standards." Battle Commander Rixnall shook his head in disbelief. "How does such a backward species achieve interstellar travel? Their ship looks like it was built in a blacksmith's forge." Perhaps they stole the technology, suggested Zothek, or bought it from traders. Admiral Kexthon studied the slowly approaching vessel. Something bothered him about the situation, though he couldn't identify what. The human ship was undeniably primitive, but there was something about its approach that seemed deliberate. "Sir," called his communications officer, "I'm intercepting transmissions between the human ship and Kepler station. They're requesting standard docking procedures and diplomatic immunity protocols." "Of course they are," General Vexmira sneered. "They know they're helpless. They're hoping treaties and laws will protect them." The human ship continued its steady approach to Kepler station. The massive space habitat sat at the intersection of several major trade routes, officially neutral territory. It was the perfect place for what the humans believed would be diplomatic negotiations. What they didn't know was that Admiral Kexathon and his allies had very different plans. "Update from Fleet Reconnaissance," reported the tactical officer. "Long-range sensors show no other human vessels in this system. No reinforcements, no escort fleet, just the one ship." "Incredible," muttered Battle Commander Rixnell. "They're either supremely confident or completely insane." Admiral Kexton activated the tactical display, showing the positions of all 47 ships in his fleet. They had arranged themselves in a perfect ambush formation around Kepler station. Any vessel approaching would find itself surrounded with no escape route. The humans were flying directly into a trap. "Admiral," called General Vex Mira from her screen, "I'm analyzing their ship's design. Look at this armor thickness. It's massive, but it's just metal plates, crude iron and steel, from what my scanners can determine." "Paranoid little creatures," added Zothek. "They must face constant warfare on their homeworld to need such heavy protection. Or they're too primitive to develop proper shielding," suggested Rixnall. The human ship was close enough now for detailed visual inspection. Through the main view screen, Admiral Kexthon could see every rivet and weld mark on the vessel's hull. It looked exactly like what it appeared to be, a crude, outdated warship built by a species that had barely discovered space travel. "Sir," the communications officer said, "the humans are transmitting their diplomatic credentials. They claim to represent something called the United Nations of Earth and request formal recognition as representatives of humanity." "How quaint," General Vexmira said. "They think this is actually about diplomacy. Admiral Kexthon had received his orders weeks ago. The combined fleet was here to deliver an ultimatum to humanity: submit to incorporation into their empires or face extinction. The humans' primitive technology made the choice obvious." "Distance to Kepler station?" he asked. "The human vessel will arrive in approximately 2 hours at current speed," reported. "Navigation. Excellent. That gives us time to prepare." Admiral Kexathan turned to address all his allied commanders. "Remember, we want them to dock at the station first. Let them think they're safe. Once they're committed, we'll spring the trap." "What about the station's neutrality?" asked Battle Commander Rixnall. "Kepler station will understand," Admiral Kexthon replied coldly. "When faced with our combined fleets, they'll see reason. Besides, this is just a diplomatic meeting that went poorly." The alien commanders laughed at that. The idea that anyone would challenge their combined might was absurd. 4 major galactic powers, 47 advanced warships, thousands of crew members with centuries of combat experience, against one primitive human vessel. "I almost feel sorry for them," General Vexmira said, though her tone suggested anything but sympathy. "They probably think their little metal box will protect them." "Let them keep thinking that," Admiral Kexton replied. "Overconfidence makes prey easier to catch." The Perseverance continued its steady approach, seemingly oblivious to the trap, closing around it. Its thick armor caught the starlight, giving it an oddly noble appearance despite its primitive construction. Soon, Admiral Kexton thought, humanity would learn its place in the galactic order. On the bridge of the human ship, unknown to the watching aliens, Captain Han Sol Kim stood calmly before his command chair. His dark eyes studied the tactical display showing dozens of alien ships surrounding their destination. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. "Captain," said Commander Eugene Park, his second in command, We're receiving multiple scan attempts from the alien fleet. They're being quite thorough, let them look, Captain Kim replied softly. They'll see exactly what we want them to see. At the engineering station, Chief Dongwoo Lee monitored power levels throughout the ship. Everything appeared normal. The reactors hummed quietly, the engines maintained steady thrust, and all systems operated within normal parameters. To any external observer, the Perseverance was exactly what it seemed: a slow, heavily armored, and primitive warship. Weapons status? Captain Kim asked quietly. All systems nominal, replied. The Perseverance moved through space like a metal mountain, its thick hull reflecting the cold light of distant stars. On the bridge, Captain Han-Sol Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching Kepler Station grow larger on the main screen. The massive space habitat spun slowly in the void, its gleaming towers and docking bays a testament to advanced engineering. Distance to station? He asked. 2 million kilometers and closing. Navigation Officer Hai Jin-yoon replied. Her fingers danced across her console as she made minute course corrections. To any observer, these looked like the clumsy adjustments of an inexperienced pilot struggling with primitive controls. In reality, every movement was calculated to position the ship exactly where it needed to be. At the communication station, Bo-Ram Shin monitored the flood of alien transmissions filling the local space. She had configured her equipment to look like basic radio gear, but the systems hidden behind the simple interface could decode and analyze every form of alien communication in real time. Captain, she said quietly, the aliens are still talking about us. They're not being very polite. What are they saying? Bo-Ram's expression remained neutral as she translated. General Vex Mira just called us a lumbering metal coffin. Fleet Marshal Zothek said we move like a dying whale trying to swim. Battle Commander Rixnell asked if humans evolved from turtles. A few crew members exchanged glances, but Captain Kim showed no reaction. Anything useful? Admiral Kexthan is analyzing our approach vector. He's confident we can't escape once we reach the station. He's also impressed by our primitive paranoia in building such thick armor. Good. Let them think that. At the science station, Minho Jiang worked quietly at his instruments. His console displayed what appeared to be basic sensor readings, but underneath the simple interface, sophisticated scanners probed every ship in the alien fleet. He had already identified 3 distinct technologies among the vessels, mapped their weapon systems, and located critical weak points in their formations. Science report, Captain Kim said. All 47 vessels cataloged, Minho replied without looking up. I've identified command ships, battle cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. The Vorthari favor energy weapons with rotating shield frequencies. The Thrakari use quantum torpedoes with predictable firing patterns. The Crimson Hegemony relies on swarm tactics with light, fast ships. The Silver Collective has the most advanced shielding but slower maneuvering. Weaknesses? Multiple. Their formation looks impressive, but they're positioning for a show of force, not actual combat. Too much overlap in their firing solutions. If we can get them to attack simultaneously, they'll risk hitting each other. Chief Engineer Dong Wu. Lee spoke up from his station. All systems running at minimal power output. The aliens' scans are only detecting about 30% of our actual capabilities. Excellent, Captain Kim said. Maintain that level. The Perseverance had been designed specifically for this kind of encounter. Every system had 2 faces, what enemies could detect and what the ship could actually do. The thick armor plating wasn't just protection, it housed the ship's true weapon systems, power cores, and shield generators. The slow speed wasn't limitation, it was careful positioning disguised as poor performance. Commander Eugene Park stood beside the captain's chair, studying the tactical display. She had graduated top of her class from the Earth Fleet Academy, specializing in deception warfare. Her job was to make sure every aspect of their approach reinforced the aliens' assumptions about human primitiveness. Engine output, she asked. Running at 15%, reported He-Jin from navigation, maintaining the illusion of maximum capability. Perfect. They need to believe this is the best we can do. The alien fleet continued its psychological warfare campaign. New transmissions flooded the channels as more commanders joined the mockery. Session. Boram translated the highlights for the bridge crew. Commander Yixtar of the Vengeance wants to know if we built our ship with hammers and anvils. Captain Nulthek of the destroyer is taking bets on whether we'll even reach the station before our engines fail. Wing Leader Pexmore suggests we're so primitive we probably still use wheels for transportation. So Young Choi looked up from her weapon station. Her console displayed simple targeting systems and basic projectile weapons, exactly what the aliens expected to see. Hidden beneath the interface were firing solutions for weapons the aliens couldn't even imagine. "Captain," she said, "I'm tracking all fleet movements. They're positioning for a perfect crossfire pattern around the docking bay." "Expected," Captain Kim replied. "Are our true weapons still concealed?" "Completely. External scans show only basic magnetic launchers and primitive missiles. They have no idea what we're really carrying." Dr. Yoon Seo-nam worked quietly at the medical station, preparing for what she knew was coming. Her official duties involved monitoring crew health during their long, difficult journey to the station. In reality, she was preparing the crew for combat maneuvers that would kill most alien species. "Medical preparations complete," she reported. "All crew members have received the necessary treatments. We're ready for high-G operations." "Treatments?" Captain Kim asked for the benefit of any aliens who might be monitoring. "Standard supplements. For extended space travel, sir. Bone strengtheners, muscle enhancers, the usual." The aliens listening would interpret this as evidence of human weakness, a species so fragile they needed medical assistance just to survive in space. They would never guess that the treatments were actually preparations that would allow humans to function during accelerations that would liquefy most other species. The Perseverance continued its steady approach to Kepler Station. On the alien, ship's crew members gathered around view screens to watch the spectacle. Many had never seen a human vessel before, and the primitive design fascinated them in the way ancient artifacts fascinate museum visitors. "Look at those weapon ports," laughed one Thrakari gunner. "They're huge. They must need massive launchers to throw their crude projectiles." "And the armor," added a Vorthari engineer. "It's so thick because they can't generate proper shields. They're trying to stop energy weapons with raw metal." "The poor things probably don't even understand how outclassed they are," said a Crimson. Hegemony Tactical Officer Admiral Kexthan listened to the chatter with satisfaction. Morale was high among his fleet. The crews were confident, even eager for the coming confrontation. The humans had made this easy by sending such an obviously inferior vessel. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the human ship is transmitting detailed specifications to Kepler Station. Shall I intercept?" "Do it." The transmission appeared on his screen. Captain Kim was providing the station with standard docking information: ship mass, dimensions, crew complement, and cargo manifest. All perfectly normal for a diplomatic mission. 2,300 crew members. The tactical officer read. "Interesting. That's a large crew for such a small ship." "Primitive automation," General Vex Mira observed. "They probably need manual workers for tasks our ships do automatically. Or they breed like insects," suggested Zothek with disgust. Admiral Kexthan noted the crew size with interest. 2,300 beings aboard one ship meant the humans took their diplomatic mission seriously. It also meant that many would die when the trap was sprung. "Communications," he ordered. "Prepare a general broadcast. I want to address the human captain directly." "Ready, Admiral." "Captain Kim," Admiral Kexthan began, his voice carrying across all frequencies. "This is Admiral Kexthan of the Vorthari fleet. Welcome to Kepler Station. We look forward to our discussions." The response came quickly. "Thank you, Admiral. The United Nations of Earth is honored by your presence and grateful for this opportunity to establish peaceful relations." More laughter echoed through the fleet communications. The human captain sounded sincere, almost eager. He genuinely believed this was about peace and diplomacy. "Tell me, Captain," Admiral Kexthan continued, "is this your finest warship?" "Your most advanced vessel." There was a brief pause before Captain Kim replied. The Perseverance represents the best of human engineering and dedication, Admiral. We're proud to serve aboard her. I'm sure you are, Admiral Kexthon said, his tone dripping with false courtesy. She's quite impressive. The bridge crew of the Dominion erupted in quiet laughter. The human captain's pride in his primitive vessel was almost touching, like a child showing off a drawing to adults. 1 more hour to docking, reported the navigation officer. Admiral Kexthan deactivated the communication channel and addressed his allied commanders. Gentlemen, ladies, fellow warriors, in 1 hour, we'll have the humans exactly where we want them, docked, trapped with no escape possible. What about Kepler Station's neutrality? Asked Battle Commander Rixnall. The station will cooperate once they understand the situation. A few destroyed docking bays will convince them to hand over the humans peacefully. General Vexamira leaned forward in her chair. And if the humans refuse to surrender? Admiral Kexthan's smile was cold. Then we'll demonstrate what happens when primitive species challenge their betters. Their ship may be tough, but it's still just metal plates and crude weapons. One good hit from our main guns will crack it open like an egg. On the Perseverance, the bridge crew continued. The docking clamps of Kepler Station secured the Perseverance with a series of metallic thuds that echoed through both vessels. Captain Han Sol Kim felt the slight vibration through the deck plates as his ship settled into its berth. On the main screen, the curved hull of the space station stretched away in both directions, its surface dotted with observation ports and communication arrays. Docking complete, Navigation Officer Hai Jin Yoon reported. All umbilicals connected. We're locked in? Thank you, Captain Kim replied calmly. He turned to his communications officer. Boram, transmit our thanks to station control and confirm we're ready for diplomatic proceedings. Aye, Captain. The message went out on standard frequencies, easily intercepted by the alien fleet positioned around the station. Admiral Kexthan smiled as he listened to the polite human transmission. Perfect. The humans were trapped exactly where he wanted them. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet, move to final positions. Surround the station completely. I want no escape routes available. Across the alien armada, engines flared to life as 47 warships repositioned themselves. The Dominion took point directly in front of the station's main docking bay, where the human ship waited. General Vex Mira's battlecruiser, Iron Fang, moved to block the station's upper approaches. Fleet Marshal Zothek's destroyer squadron spread out to cover the lower hemisphere. Battle Commander Rixnall's ships formed the outer perimeter, ready to catch any vessel that somehow broke through the inner rings. On Kepler Station, Administrator Joel Nex received dozens of priority communications as the alien fleet completed its encirclement. His six-limbed form trembled as he realized what was happening. The station's neutrality meant nothing when faced with such overwhelming force. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered his communications team. Warn them. Sir, his aide replied nervously. Admiral Kexthan has specifically ordered us not to interfere. He says any attempt to warn the humans will be considered an act of war. Administrator Yolnex closed his eyes. Kepler Station survived by maintaining strict neutrality, but that neutrality was about to be tested. He could only hope the humans would surrender quickly when they realized their situation. Aboard the Perseverance, the bridge crew maintained their careful performance. Every station showed routine operations as the ship's crew supposedly prepared for diplomatic meetings. Captain Kim reviewed what appeared to be standard diplomatic protocols on his personal display, while Commander Eugene Park organized duty rosters for shore leave that would never happen. Captain, Science Officer Min Ho Jang said quietly, I'm detecting movement in the alien fleet. They're repositioning for complete encirclement. Timeline? They'll be in final positions within 30 minutes. Captain Kim nodded. Everything was proceeding exactly as Earth Fleet Command had predicted. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they were following textbook siege tactics, positioning themselves for maximum intimidation rather than optimal combat effectiveness. Engineering status? He asked. Chief Dongwu Li looked up from his console. All systems green, Captain. The alien scans are still only detecting basic fusion reactors and simple propulsion. They have no idea what we're really running down here. Weapons? Concealed and ready, Weapons Officer So Young Choi reported. External scanners still show only magnetic launchers and basic missiles. The real systems remain completely hidden. Dr. Yoon Seo-nam continued her preparations at the medical station. To alien observers, she appeared to be treating crew members for various space travel ailments. In reality, she was administering the final series of combat drugs that would allow humans to function during maneuvers that would kill most alien species. Medical readiness at 100%, she reported. All crew members are prepared for high-G operations. Captain Kim allowed himself a small smile. His crew was the finest Earth had ever produced, hand-picked for this mission. Each one understood their role in the deception that was about to unfold. Communications, he said. Any word from the diplomatic team supposedly preparing to disembark? Standing by in Shuttle Bay 2, Boram replied. Ambassador Song and her team are ready for the negotiations. The diplomatic team was real, though they knew their mission was purely theatrical. Ambassador Song and her staff would play their parts perfectly, right up until the moment when diplomacy ended and warfare began. Admiral Kexthan watched the final positioning of his fleet with satisfaction. 47 ships now surrounded Kepler, stationed in a perfect sphere of destruction. No matter which direction the humans tried to flee, they would face multiple layers of hostile vessels. The trap was complete. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered. It's time to begin. The communication screen filled with the faces of his allied commanders. General Vex Mira's scales gleamed under her bridge lighting. Fleet Marshal Zothex, red skin seemed to glow with anticipation. Battle Commander Rixnall's compound eyes reflected the light from his tactical displays. The moment has arrived, Admiral Kexathan announced. We will offer the humans one opportunity to surrender peacefully. When they refuse, and they will refuse because primitive species always do, we will demonstrate the consequences of defying superior civilizations. What about the station? Asked General Vex Mira. Kepler Station will cooperate once they see. What happens to those who oppose us? Administrator Jolnex is practical. He'll hand over the humans rather than see his station destroyed. Fleet Marshal Zothek leaned forward eagerly. And if the humans try to fight? Admiral Kexthan's mandibles clicked in amusement. Let them. Their primitive weapons can't penetrate our shields. Their slow ship can't outrun our destroyers. This will be a lesson, not a battle. On the Perseverance, Communications Officer Boram suddenly straightened at her station. Captain, incoming transmission from the alien flagship. Admiral Kexthan wants to speak with you directly. Put him through. The main screen flickered, then displayed the imposing figure of Admiral Kexthan. His alien features were harsh and angular, with 4 eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Captain Kim, he began, I trust your journey to Kepler Station was comfortable, despite your ship's limitations. Quite comfortable, thank you, Admiral. We're looking forward to productive discussions. Indeed. In fact, I have an announcement that will make our discussions very brief. Admiral Kexthan paused dramatically. The era of human independence is over. Your species will now serve as client workers under the guidance of superior civilizations. Your worlds will provide resources for our empires. Your people will contribute labor for our projects. Captain Kim's expression didn't change. I see. And if we decline this generous offer? Decline? Admiral Kexthan's laughter was like grinding metal. Captain, you seem to misunderstand your situation. Look around you. The screen split to show multiple views of the alien fleet. Massive battleships bristled with weapons. Smaller destroyers hung in space like metallic sharks. The station was completely surrounded. 47 ships, Captain. Thousands of crew members, weapons that could sterilize your entire homeworld. You have one primitive vessel with crude armor and simple projectiles. Where exactly do you see room for negotiation? Captain Kim considered this for a moment. Behind him, his bridge crew continued their work with calm professionalism. No one, showed fear or panic at the revelation that their diplomatic mission had been a trap from the beginning. "Admiral," Captain Kim said finally, "I appreciate your directness. However, I must respectfully decline your offer." The silence that followed was deafening. Even Admiral Kexton seemed momentarily stunned by the response. "You decline?" he asked slowly. "That's correct. Humanity prefers to remain independent." General Vexamira's voice cut through the communication channel. "Did this primitive just refuse our demand? Does he not understand the situation?" Captain Kim looked directly into the camera. "I understand perfectly, General. You've surrounded us with your fleet believing we're helpless. You've assumed our ship is primitive because it doesn't match your expectations. You've concluded that one human vessel cannot stand against 47 alien ships. Because it's true," Fleet Marshal Zothek shouted. "Your metal box will be scrap in minutes." "Perhaps," Captain Kim replied calmly. "Or perhaps you've made some incorrect assumptions." Admiral Kexton's four eyes narrowed. "Explain." "You've spent the last several hours analyzing our ship. Tell me, what did your scans reveal?" "A primitive vessel with thick armor, slow engines, and basic weapons," Admiral Kexton replied immediately. "And what conclusions did you draw from this analysis?" "That humans are an inferior species with outdated technology." Captain Kim nodded slowly. "And based on those conclusions, you decided to set this trap." "Correct." "Admiral," Captain Kim said, with the faintest smile, "has it occurred to you that any species capable of interstellar travel might be capable of making their ships appear different than they actually are?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Admiral Kexton's alien features. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that you might want to reconsider your assumptions." General Vexmira's angry voice cut through the channel. "Enough of this, Admiral. Let's end this charade. Order the attack." "Captain Kim, Admiral." The first alien plasma bolt struck empty space where the Perseverance had been docked 3 seconds earlier. Admiral Kexton stared at his tactical display in disbelief as the human ship moved through his fleet formation like a missile fired from point-blank range. "Impossible," he whispered. "No ship that size can accelerate that fast." "Sir," his tactical officer called out, voice cracking with panic. "The human vessel is pulling over 300 Gs of acceleration. That should kill every living thing aboard. Unless," Admiral Kexton said slowly, "we've underestimated these humans more than we thought possible." The Perseverance streaked between 2 Thrakari destroyers, moving so fast their targeting computers couldn't track it. As it passed, sections of its hull that had appeared to be simple armor plating suddenly retracted like flower petals, revealing weapon batteries that belonged in the nightmares of military engineers. "All ships, concentrate fire!" General Vexmira screamed across the fleet channel. "Bring that thing down!" 46 alien vessels opened fire simultaneously. The space around Kepler Station erupted into a light show of plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, and energy beams. Every shot was perfectly aimed at where the human ship should have been if it followed normal physics. But the Perseverance wasn't following normal physics anymore. Captain Kim stood on his bridge, his body pressed back into his command chair by forces that would have turned most alien species into paste. Around him, his crew worked with impossible efficiency despite accelerations that defied belief. "Weapons free," he commanded, his voice steady despite the crushing G-forces. "Engage all targets." So Young Choi's hands moved across her weapons console with practiced precision. The targeting systems she revealed were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of energy weapons that fired in straight lines, the human ship mounted massive magnetic launchers that could hurl projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. "Target acquired," she announced. "Thrakari battlecruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. Fire." The sound was unlike anything the aliens expected. No high-pitched whine of charging energy weapons, no electronic hum of plasma cannons, just a deep mechanical thud that seemed to come from the ship's very bones. The projectile that emerged from the Perseverance was a simple piece of dense metal, smaller than a human fist. But it was moving at nearly 8% of light speed, and when it struck General Vexmira's flagship, the result was catastrophic. The slug punched through the alien ship's energy shields as if they didn't exist. It tore through the hull armor like paper, traversed the entire length of the vessel in microseconds, and exited through the rear, taking half the ship's internal structure with it. The Iron Fang simply came apart, its remains spreading through space in a cloud of glowing debris. "Vexamira," Admiral Kexthon shouted into his communicator. There was no response. The Thrakari general and her entire crew of 800 warriors had been erased in an instant. "How?" Fleet Marshal Zothek demanded. "How is that possible? No projectile weapon can penetrate modern shielding." "Sir," the tactical officer on the Dominion reported, his voice shaking. "Initial analysis suggests the projectile was moving at approximately 24,000 kilometers per second. At that velocity, energy shields are useless." Admiral Kexthan felt something cold settle in his stomach. What kind of species builds weapons like that? His answer came in the form of another mechanical thud from the human ship. This time, the target was one of Zothek's destroyers. The projectile struck the ship's reactor section directly, causing an explosion that lit up the surrounding space like a new star. The destroyer's escort vessels were caught in the blast, their hulls cracked and systems failing. All ships evasive. "Maneuvers," Admiral Kexthon commanded. "Don't let it target you." But the human ship wasn't behaving like any vessel they understood. It spun and twisted through space with impossible agility, its thick hull somehow withstanding maneuvers that should have torn it apart. Chief Engineer Dongwu Li had designed the Perseverance specifically for this kind of combat, with internal structures that could handle stresses no alien engineer would attempt. "Sir," Navigation Officer Hyojin Yoon called out. "Executing. Combat Maneuver Delta 7. The ship rolled along its main axis while simultaneously diving toward the station's lower hemisphere. The aliens trying to track it found themselves firing at each other as the human vessel used their own formation against them. Two Crimson Hegemony cruisers, attempting to bracket the Perseverance in a crossfire, instead hit Battle Commander Rixnall's command ship with their plasma cannons. The Silver Collective vessel's shields flared and failed under the friendly fire. "You idiots!" Rixnall screamed. "Watch your targeting." "We're trying," the Crimson captain replied. "That thing moves like nothing I've ever seen." Commander Eugene Park coordinated the battle from her tactical station, her display showing the positions of all remaining alien vessels. "Captain, recommend target priority. The Vorthari command ship. Take out their fleet coordination." "Agreed." "So Young, target the Dominion." "Targeting solutions locked," Weapons Officer Choi replied. "But, sir, they're moving to put Kepler Station between us and them." Captain Kim's smile was predatory. "Then we'll have to go around." The Perseverance suddenly changed direction, its engines flaring with power that registered off the scales of alien sensors. The ship shot upward relative to the station's orientation, then curved around in a loop that brought it directly behind the Vorthari flagship. "Impossible," Admiral Kexthon shouted. "Nothing that massive can change direction that quickly." "Sir," his engineer reported in terror. "Their engines are producing power outputs equivalent to a small star. How are they containing that much energy?" The answer was human engineering at its finest. While aliens had developed elegant solutions, using energy fields and exotic matter, humans had taken a different path. They built things to last, to endure, and to exceed every safety margin by factors that other species considered insane. Science Officer Min Ho Jiang activated the ship's electronic warfare systems, and suddenly, the aliens found their communications filled with static and false signals. Ships lost contact with their commanders. Targeting computers began displaying multiple false targets. Navigation systems showed conflicting position data. "They're jamming us," Fleet Marshal Zothek reported. "How do primitives have electronic warfare capabilities?" "Because," Captain Kim said, his voice now broadcasting on all alien frequencies, "you assumed we were primitive." Another thud echoed through space as the Perseverance fired again. This projectile struck Admiral Kexthon's flagship directly amidships. The slug tore through 17 decks before exiting through the opposite hull, leaving a tunnel of destruction in its wake. The Dominion began to list as atmosphere and fluids poured from the wound. All ships ramming speed, Admiral Kexthon commanded, his voice distorted by damage to his ship's communication systems. Close to point-blank range, their weapons can't be effective at close quarters. It was exactly the wrong tactical decision. The alien ships designed for long-range energy weapon duels, closed to distances where their sophisticated targeting systems were useless. The Perseverance, built like a fortress and armed for close combat, welcomed them. Dr. Yunseo Nam monitored her crew's vital signs as the ship performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for any other species. All crew members stable, she reported, maintaining full combat effectiveness. The humans had evolved on a heavy world under harsh conditions. Their dense bones and robust physiology allowed them to function under accelerations that would liquefy the delicate aliens. While enemy crews lost consciousness or died from the G-forces of their own evasive maneuvers, the humans pressed their attack. "Captain," Minho reported, "I'm detecting panic in the alien fleet communications. They're trying to retreat, but their formation is too tight. They're getting in each other's way." "Maintain pressure," Captain Kim ordered. "Don't let them reorganize." The Perseverance moved through the alien fleet like a predator among sheep. Its weapons fired with mechanical precision, each shot calculated for maximum damage. But these weren't random attacks. They were surgical strikes designed to cripple command vessels and eliminate fleet coordination. Another Thrakari ship died as a railgun slug punched through its bridge. A Crimson Hegemony destroyer lost its weapon systems when a precisely aimed projectile severed its power conduits. Two Silver Collective escorts collided when their navigation computers failed under human electronic warfare. This isn't a battle, Admiral Kexton realized with growing horror. This is an execution. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "the human ship's armor is deflecting our weapons. Even our main guns can't penetrate. How thick is that plating, sir?" "It's not just thick, it's layered. Multiple types of metal and ceramic in configurations I don't understand. And there's something else, some kind of energy field running through it." Admiral Kexton felt his blood grow cold. "They do have shields." "Yes, sir, but not external shields like ours. Internal ones, built into the armor itself. Every plate is reinforced with energy fields we can barely detect." "And the weapons?" "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "I don't think we've seen their real weapons yet." As if summoned by his words, the Perseverance suddenly stopped its wild maneuvering. Admiral Kexton stared at the transformed human vessel with growing dread. The crude metal box had become a floating fortress of death, bristling with weapons that belonged in his worst nightmares. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate a response to something they didn't understand. "All ships," he commanded, "concentrate fire on the human vessel. Maximum power." The response was immediate. 44 remaining alien ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, particle beams, and exotic energy weapons created a light show that could be seen from orbit around nearby planets. The combined firepower could have sterilized a continent. Every shot struck the Perseverance directly, and every shot failed to penetrate. "Report," Admiral Kexthon shouted. "Sir," his weapons officer replied in disbelief, "their armor is absorbing everything we throw at them. The energy is just disappearing. That's impossible. No armor can withstand that much firepower." On the human ship, Chief Engineer Dongwu Li smiled grimly as he watched the power readings spike across his displays. "Ablative armor working perfectly, Captain. We're actually gaining power from their attacks." The aliens didn't understand what they were seeing. Human armor technology didn't just deflect energy, it absorbed it, channeled it through superconducting networks, and fed it directly into the ship's power cores. Every alien attack made the Perseverance stronger. "Captain Kim," Admiral Kexton transmitted desperately, "this is madness. Stand down. We can negotiate." Captain Kim's response was delivered with mechanical precision. "You had your chance for negotiation, Admiral. You chose warfare instead." "Weapons," Captain Kim called to So Young Choi. "Show them what human engineering can accomplish." The main railgun turret rotated with ominous slowness until it pointed directly at the Vorthari flagship. The magnetic coils along its length began to glow as power flowed through them like liquid lightning. "Target locked," So Young reported. Fire. The sound that echoed through space was like the universe itself breaking. The projectile that emerged from the railgun was larger than those fired before. A dense tungsten rod the size of a small building, accelerated to 12% of light speed. It struck the Dominion directly through the command tower. The Vorthari flagship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist as a functional vessel. The projectile's passage created a tunnel of destruction that ran from bow to stern. Atmosphere vented from dozens of hull breaches. Internal explosions rippled along the ship's length as critical systems failed. Admiral Kexthan found himself on the deck of his bridge, his command chair and half his crew gone. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows through the smoke and debris. His proud flagship was dying around him. "Abandon ship," he gasped into his communicator. "All hands, abandon ship." But the human vessel wasn't finished. Navigation Officer Hae-Jin Yoon piloted the Perseverance through the alien formation with surgical precision. Her movements weren't random or panicked. They were calculated to maximize damage while minimizing the aliens' ability to coordinate their response. "Coming around on Fleet Marshal Zothek's squadron," she reported. The Crimson Hegemony ships tried to form a defensive formation, but the human ship moved too fast and too unpredictably. It dove under their formation, rolled inverted, and came up behind them with its weapons already charged. "Multiple targets," So Young announced, engaging with secondary batteries. The smaller railgun turrets opened fire in rapid sequence. Each shot was precisely calculated to cause maximum damage to critical systems. A destroyer lost its main reactor. A cruiser's weapon systems exploded. An escort vessel split in half when a projectile severed its structural spine. Fleet Marshal Zothek watched 3 of his ships die in as many seconds. His own vessel, the heavy cruiser Blood Tide, shuddered under near misses that his shields couldn't deflect. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his crew. "How can projectiles move that fast?" "Sir," his science officer reported, "the projectiles appeared to be accelerated by magnetic fields of impossible strength. The power requirements should be beyond any ship's capacity." "Should be," Zothek repeated bitterly, "but clearly isn't." "Commander." Yujin Park coordinated the attack from her tactical station, her display showing the positions of every enemy vessel. She had studied alien fleet tactics for years, and now she was using that knowledge against them. "Captain," she called, "recommend targeting the command vessels first. Disrupt their coordination before they can adapt." "Agreed." "Minho, electronic warfare status?" Science Officer Minho Jung looked up from his console, which now displayed a complexity of systems that would have amazed the alien engineers. "Their communications are completely compromised. I'm feeding false targeting data to their computers and blocking coordination between ships." "Excellent, continue jamming." The human electronic warfare systems were works of art disguised as simple radios. While the aliens had developed sophisticated communication networks, humans had developed even more sophisticated ways to disrupt them. Every alien transmission was intercepted, analyzed, and either blocked or modified to create confusion. Battle Commander Rixnall's Silver Collective ships attempted a coordinated attack from 3 directions. His tactical computers calculated the perfect firing solution to catch the human ship in an inescapable crossfire. But when his ships fired, their weapons struck empty space. The targeting data their computers had received was false, fed to them by human electronic warfare systems that had learned to speak their language better than they spoke it themselves. "Impossible," Rixnall screamed. "How did they spoof our targeting computers?" The answer came in the form of another railgun shot that crippled his command ship's engines. The Perseverance had used his own attack as cover to close the distance and deliver a precision strike. Dr. Yoon Seo-nam monitored her crew's condition from the medical station. Despite the crushing G-forces and violent maneuvers, every human aboard remained conscious and functional. The treatments she had administered were working perfectly. "Medical status green across all departments," she reported. "No casualties, no degraded performance." "How?" Admiral Kexthan transmitted weakly from his dying flagship. How are your crew surviving these accelerations? Captain Kim's response was broadcast on all frequencies so every surviving alien could hear. Humans evolved on a heavy world, Admiral. 12 meters per second squared gravity, dense atmosphere, frequent natural disasters. We built our bodies tough and our ships tougher. But the G-forces are well within human tolerance when properly prepared. Did you think we would send our finest ship without ensuring our finest crew could operate it? The Perseverance rolled through another impossible maneuver, its hull groaning but holding together. Human engineering didn't rely on exotic materials or energy fields. It relied on understanding physics and building beyond every safety margin. Captain, Communications Officer Boram Shin reported, I'm receiving surrender requests from multiple alien vessels. Terms? They're offering to withdraw immediately and never return to human space. Captain Kim considered this. Around them, the alien fleet was in complete disarray. Ships fled in all directions, their formations broken and their morale shattered. Nearly half their vessels were destroyed or crippled. Not acceptable, he decided. They came here to enslave humanity. They need to understand the consequences of that decision. The Perseverance targeted another group of ships. This time, it was a squadron of Crimson Hegemony escorts that had been harassing human merchant vessels for months. The railgun spoke again, and 3 ships died in a cascade of explosions. Please, Fleet Marshal Zothek transmitted. We surrender. We'll leave human space. We'll pay reparations. Too late for that, Captain Kim replied coldly. You should have considered consequences before making threats. The human ships, true. Weapon systems were now fully deployed. Missile launchers revealed warheads that burned with contained fusion reactions. Point defense systems that could track and destroy objects moving at significant fractions of light speed. Energy weapons that the aliens hadn't even detected during their scans. Captain, So Young reported, I have clean shots on the remaining command vessels. Execute. The final phase of the engagement was swift and decisive. Battle Commander Rixnell's flagship died when a fusion warhead detonated against its hull. The remaining Thrakari vessels scattered when their formation leader was eliminated by a precision railgun strike. One by one, the ships that had come to enforce humanity's subjugation were reduced to debris or fleeing wrecks. Fleet status? Captain Kim asked. Commander Park consulted her tactical display. 31 alien vessels destroyed, 12 heavily damaged and withdrawing, 4 attempting to surrender, 3 successfully fled to hyperspace. Acceptable losses on our side? None, sir. Minor hull scoring from near misses, but all systems operational. Captain Kim opened a channel to the entire system. His voice would be heard not just by the surviving aliens but by Kepler Station and every monitoring post within light years. This is Captain Han Sol Kim of the United Earthship Perseverance, he began. Let this engagement serve as a lesson to any who would threaten humanity. We came here seeking peace. We were offered slavery. We have provided education instead. Admiral Kexton, trapped in the wreckage of his bridge, listened to the human captain's words.